that late. So we ask you to help in terms of creating time constraints so that students aren't being up that late, and it's really not necessary. And if there is an issue with that, definitely contact your child's homeroom teacher so we can help figure out why that happened. And the last point is really important, suggesting parent help in the form of time management. This is kind of this is going to be a little bit of a transition going into 6th grade, and it would be great if you guys can support us in terms of helping your kids kind of stay on task and not letting things get drawn out. Okay, we want to try to keep healthy time limits on all their academic things because we realize that all the kids have a lot of different things going on, whether it's sports, whether it's music, whether it's religious school, and academics as well. So we want to try to keep a balance. We understand that there's all these extracurricular activities going on, and we want to keep limits on this particular aspect so that nobody gets stressed out, and that kids have a really great academic experience at the middle school level.
All right, organization. For organization, it's a little bit different in 6th grade because their homeroom teacher is really someone they don't see like they see in the primary grades. In the primary grades, they have their homeroom teacher all, if not most of the day. In 5th grade, I think they switch a few days a week for one subject, but the rest of that time they're with their homeroom teacher, so it's very different in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. They switch for every subject. So they do see their homeroom teacher a little bit more. They'll have this short homeroom period in the morning where we'll check in, take attendance, collect things, hand things out, and just do a quick touch base with the kids, usually about 5 minutes we have with them. And then they'll start switching classes for the day. So when I have my homeroom, I have them for science, I have them for advisory, and I have them for that little morning time every morning. So it's not a whole lot of time that the homeroom teacher has them for compared to where they've been. So there's a lot of pros and cons to that, which we'll get to in a second. But students are changing classrooms period to period with 3 minutes in between. So that's really easy for the kids most of the time that are up on the top floor. There's 3 classrooms on the top floor. They can go pretty quickly between the 3 of them. My classroom is 2 floors down, which of course, down the stairs and up the stairs, there's all kinds of drama about that. But they get used to that pretty quickly about how they really need to just grab their stuff and go, grab their stuff and go up. And it really is plenty of time if they need to run to the bathroom at some point. They'll do that when they're upstairs. And obviously if they don't have enough time and they come into the room and they ask if they need to go to the bathroom. So we're not gonna, that's not a problem, we have time. And then the classes are usually 45 to 65 minutes long. We're still working on our schedule for next year. We're hoping to have 60-minute blocks. It's really an ideal amount of time for a subject class. So that's what we're kind of working on. We're hoping to have 4 60-minute blocks a week with each class, but the schedule is still in flux, so we're not really sure what that will look like. The movement breaks are really important because while they are getting some movement as they're moving up and down through the hallways, it's not sort of structured focused movement, and there's been a lot of studies that show that getting moving and getting your blood flowing can actually really help kids focus, pay attention, learn information. And so we really try to incorporate a lot of these movement breaks into our classrooms. I have some of the 5th graders actually come by and say, why does your room always look like it's a dance party going on? And I say, because the first 3 minutes of every class, we move and shake, we dance, we do exercises, we do stuff to kind of get their blood flowing so that when they sit down to work, they've got sort of their jiggles out and they're ready to sit and they're ready to focus and their blood is flowing. So that's what we do at the beginning of a lot of our classes. Certainly once in a while we don't have time for that, and that's sort of how the schedule goes, but as much as I can put in that time, and I know Mr. Carr's been doing it most classes too, and the other teachers have been doing them also, we're really trying to get their blood flowing and get them moving. So the benefits and challenges of moving are that they get to move from class to class. They have multiple teachers during the day. The challenges are that they move from class to class and they have multiple teachers during the day. So they're kind of, it's a double-edged sword. So for some kids, that moving between classes is really great. They get to get up, they move around, they have a couple minutes where they're sort of like doing their own thing, and they get to sit back down again. That can be really good for a lot of kids to sort of have that movement where they're not in one room all day. The challenges that come with that are organizational most of the time. Kids who struggle with keeping themselves together in one classroom have a really hard time when they start moving from class to class to class, remembering all their stuff, what they need to bring. And that's something we try to help and structure them with, and reminding them and helping them get used to that. But that is something that can be both a benefit and a challenge. And then the social piece comes into play too, because when they're moving, there's these times between classes where social situations can sometimes happen. So that's something we need to keep an eye on also. So while it's great that they have a little bit of freedom and they can kind of chat with their friend for a second as they're walking to class, that can also lead to difficulties. So like I said, they're double-edged swords, but they're good for a lot of kids. As well as having the different classrooms, they have different teachers, which again, half and half. It's great to have different teachers, get used to different personalities. If you have a problem with how you're interacting with one teacher, you're not with them all day. So it's different from when you're having, a younger grade classroom. If you're having a problem, you kind of think about it, go back the next day and sort of work on that relationship. If you're in a great place with teachers all the time, that's awesome too. So that's what we hope for, is that they strive to have a great relationship with all of us. But certainly everyone's learning and profile is different, so different classes may be harder for kids or difficult in different ways, and so it gives them a chance to kind of move around, have different teaching structures, different ways of going about class, so that can really help kids. All right, typical day. We don't really have a typical day that we can show you that's going to necessarily be one from next year, but this gives you just an idea of what a day might look like, with some hour-long blocks. There's an advisory in there. We have a lunch period, recess. So lunch and recess is a little bit different this year. It's a little shorter. They have half an hour for lunch and recess. What we found this year was that kids were really struggling to have their 10 minutes of recess and then come in and have 20 minutes to eat, especially if they had to go through the line. They'd end up with 5 minutes to eat. So what we put into place, which I'm not sure we'll be able to do again next year, will depend on what our lunch schedule is, but we put into place that kids could come in and spend that full 30 minutes in the cafeteria if they wanted to. So they wouldn't have that 10 minutes of recess, but they would have plenty of time to sit and relax and talk with their friends while they ate. All of this is dependent on what the schedule looks like. We were able to do that this year because we had the first lunch period, so there was no one in there before us. I don't know if that would work in a schedule next year, but certainly, our hope would be that all kids would have plenty of time to relax and to eat. It's really important that they have their nutrition for the rest of the day. We also have Spanish and art and drama in the schedule. Spanish, they have 3 days a week in the 6th grade, 45 minutes a session. And then they have art or drama and PE as their other specials. They also have music, which would be a conservatory period next year, so they'll have chorus or band or general music. It looks a little bit different than in the primary grades, but it's still a musical aspect. And then tools for organization, we have the assignment planner. I think it's different from the 5th, I think the 5th grade one is smaller. So this is sort of a regular binder size, not binder, notebook size, spiral notebook size book. So it's got a lot of space for them to write their assignments in. They have big calendars so they can write things in for long term. And we'll be working with all the students on how do you organize stuff, how do you plan for long-term things, making sure things are written in the assignment notebook. Because that's something that, especially as they start to move around classes, it's really important. If they leave my class and they haven't written down the science homework, they don't see me again that day. It's over, it's done, they're gone. So their choices are to come back and see me after school, to talk to a friend, to hope for the best. We hope they don't just hope for the best, but so there's different strategies they can use, but we're working on teaching them those strategies, because those are strategies they're going to be using for the rest of time. Middle school, high school, it's all the same strategy we're trying to help build them up right now. Binder system, we've been working with the Landmark School this year in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade at creating some cohesive binder structures throughout the whole middle school using the same organization system. So we'll be putting those into place next year. It's been a very good partnership with the Landmark School, and I think we've gotten a lot of really interesting ideas from that. So hopefully those ideas will be beneficial to the kids. By having all the binders organized the same way, that sort of cuts down on some of the organizational confusion, because everybody's binder will be organized the same. So once they get that system, they should be good to go. Some kids might get that system the first week, the other one it might take till February or May. Every student is different. So, but our plan is by the end of the year in 6th grade to have them ready to move on to 7th grade, so that 6th grade can be a little bit challenging because they're learning a whole lot throughout this year. But our goal is that by the time they go to 7th grade,